Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is 12 o'clock on the dot, so I think we'll get started. Thank you for joining us here today for this webinar about the Master of Legal Studies in Cybersecurity and Data Privacy at ClevelandMarshall College of Law at Cleveland State University. I want to start with some brief introductions so you know who's here with you today. I'm Julie DiBiasio. I have had the pleasure of speaking with some of you on this call, so it's nice to see you. I am the Director of Graduate Studies and Professional Development here at ClevelandMarshall, and happy to speak to you privately at any time about the application process or the program in more detail. But I feel very fortunate to have with us today two professors from ClevelandMarshall College of Law. We'll start with Professor John Plecnik. He is actually the director of the Master of Legal Studies program. John, will you briefly introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Julie. Once again, my name is Professor John Plecnik, and I'm proud to be the director of our Master of Legal Studies program. We have the oldest MLS in all of Northeast Ohio. It's become the model in schools in other states and other regions. And so it's a program that we've worked on for some time. But what we're really excited about was the launch this year with Professor Brian Ray and our director of the Center of Cybersecurity is our new and fully online track in cybersecurity. So it's a very innovative program. It grows what has been a very successful master's program for the university. And I want to emphasize that last word, university. When you're joining us at ClevelandMarshall, you're not just becoming a family member of one of the oldest and most respected law schools in the country, you're also getting the benefit of all of Cleveland State University, where we're home to about 5,000 graduate students in so many different disciplines from around the world. And you have access as a student here to all those resources, both online and if you're local to the area, in person as well. We really welcome you to take advantage of all of Cleveland State University. And I think you'll find that having a powerful research university behind us really makes this degree even more valuable.
Thank you so much, John. And also with us today is Professor Brian Ray. So Brian Ray not only teaches in this program, but he is also the director for the Center for Cybersecurity and Privacy Protection and created this program. So Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Julie, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to hear about our program. As Julie mentioned, I co-founded and now direct our Center for Cybersecurity and Privacy Protection, which is an interdisciplinary center here at Cleveland State University, which focuses on the legal and regulatory aspects of data security and privacy. And one of the signature programs within the center is this online MLS in cybersecurity and data privacy, which is based on a curriculum that we developed and continue to offer for our Juris Doctor students who are pursuing a law degree, but we've adapted it and really actually expanded, especially the technical depth, to offer it to non-lawyers as well. And we'll get into more of those details as we go through. But as John mentioned, one of the advantages of being part of our online MLS program is you have access to the full panoply of resources, including events, networking opportunities that we offer to all of our students and all of our programs through the center. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Brian. And you guys will hear more from both Brian and John as we go through this webinar. And so I briefly want to go over what we'll talk about today. So we're going to familiarize you with who ClevelandMarshall College of Law is, why we created this online program and why we think it's beneficial to you and your future career goals. We'll go over the application process and next steps if you are interested in applying to this program. And of course, we'll open it up for question and answer. I do want to mention that I am monitoring the chat and the question and answer feature. So at any time you have a question while John or Brian are speaking, please go ahead and chat your question and we will answer it right there and then. We want this to be as interactive as possible, so you don't have to wait till the end to ask your question. So, who is ClevelandMarshall College of Law at Cleveland State University? Well, we are an iconic 122-year-old law school located in Cleveland, Ohio. If you haven't had the opportunity to visit us, or if you are not from this region, we strongly encourage you to do so. One of the opportunities you'll have as a student to visit this law school is our annual Cybersecurity and Privacy Protection Conference that Brian puts on each year. We just had our very successful first ever virtual cybersecurity conference that maybe Brian will speak about later. But we really hope all of our students attend that conference, and it was great this year. But we at ClevelandMarshall want you to know that we are your law school for life, and I think that you'll find that through our student-centered approach, the way we love to connect with you, whether it's inside the classroom or outside the classroom at events, our willingness to connect you with alumni and leaders in this space. Like John said, this is a family here at ClevelandMarshall, and we are here to make sure that you have the best experience possible. And so with that, if there aren't any questions about ClevelandMarshall or Cleveland State University as a whole, I will toss it over to Brian to start to give you guys more information about this Master of Legal Studies program. Brian?
Thanks, Julie. As I mentioned, this program is based on a curriculum we developed for our Juris Doctor program, but we've adapted it and expanded it for non-lawyers. And the key benefits of our approach is that you're getting the same content that we teach to lawyers in this field. So you're getting the very sophisticated legal, regulatory, and policy context. And as we'll get into in more detail in a bit, you'll get a grounding in law generally to prepare you for that. But unique to this program is, and I apologize, my dog is barking. Unique to this program, and unlike really any program offered in any master's or legal studies program that we know of, we integrate the legal, technical, and business aspects. And so in addition to getting a grounding in law, you're going to get a grounding in technology in the cybersecurity and data context. And that's because to be a cybersecurity professional, especially as you move up the ranks, whether you're on the technical side or the compliance side or in a business role, it's really important to have that 360-degree view. And so if you're a technologist, you need to know the basics of how cybersecurity technology works. But if you're in a compliance or business role, you need to know that as well, because you need to be able to talk to your technologists. And likewise, if you're in a technology or business role, you need to be able to talk to legal and understand what they're doing. And often it's the legal risks that are the most critical in this context. And so this will prepare you and give you a thorough grounding in all of those areas that will serve you well, regardless of whether you're in a technology, business, or legal role. And again, especially as you move up through the ranks and take on a more strategic position. Thanks, Julie.
Julie? Brian, yeah, will you detail the legal side, or would you like me to go to the next slide and talk about career outcomes?
So I'll briefly touch on this. As I just spoke a little bit about, this gives a little bit of flavor of the complexity, the increasing complexity that we're seeing in cybersecurity and data privacy law. The EU, of course, has been at the forefront in the privacy area, and that's getting even more complicated, especially with a recent decision by a European court that the Privacy Shield deal we have to transfer data from the EU to the US is no longer valid. It's getting more interesting. And then, of course, the legal obligations generally when you're dealing with European data. Within the US, we've started to follow their lead, especially in California. The California Consumer Privacy Act has been online for some time now. We're starting to see enforcement actions, and there are a number of states that are looking to California as a model in developing other similar laws, as well as laws in areas like biometrics and other specific areas. And so those issues, as I said, really flow through an organization, whether you're talking about from a compliance perspective or on the technology side, where you're trying to build a program that reasonably complies with these different regulations. And so the great thing about this field from a job perspective is this continued growth and expansion of both legal obligations, as well as the substantial and concerning growth of cyber attacks, both in number and in sophistication, means that this is an area where there is huge demand, and where there will continue to be large demand going forward. Now, these are numbers from jobs primarily in the technical side, but that just shows you how much demand there is, and that demand flows through, in particular on the compliance and regulatory side as well. And so, to recap briefly, the distinct advantage of our program is you're going to get that 360-degree view, legal, business, as well as technical. We go in particular depth on the legal and regulatory side because those are the critical issues that drive risk in any organization, and that is our distinctive expertise. We will give you the same content that you would get if you were training to be a lawyer, just in a different format. And then that will give you the ability to understand and assess these growing legal obligations and translate them into technical compliance or business roles.
Sorry, I had a difficulty unmuting myself there. Well, thank you, Brian, and we'll hear more from Brian in a little bit when we go over the curriculum more in depth. But I want to just briefly touch upon the program structure. Just so everyone is clear, this is a fully online program, which starts in the fall semester, spring semester, or summer semester of every year. So it's very flexible that way. If you're looking to jump in and get started, we have an upcoming spring cohort that starts on January 11th that we would love all of you to attend. You can do this program on a part-time or full-time basis. We have flexibility there, and I can speak with you in more detail privately to see what works best with your lifestyle. But it is a total of 30 credits. And if you do this program on a part-time basis, you can complete this within 2 years. So within those 30 credits, it's a total of 10 courses. Here, I'll go to the next slide so you can see that. It's a total of 10 courses, which is stretched across 5 semesters. That's if you do this on a part-time basis. And again, we have some flexibility where you can take 3 or maybe even 4 courses a semester. Most of these courses are built with an asynchronous format, which means if you're new to online education, that is more flexible, where you will log on, view your lecture, complete your assignments in an allotted time before the next week course begins. But we do also offer some synchronous components to the program, where you will have live lectures where you can interact with your professor and the other people in your cohort, have great discussions, meet your classmates, so you get the best of both worlds. And Brian, I want to turn it over to you, since you are a professor in this program, to talk more about that experience for online learners, and of course to go more in depth of the courses that are laid out here.
Thanks again, Julie. So, as I briefly mentioned before, this is a tightly structured program that is based on a curriculum we developed with input from outside industry experts, as well as using our own experience and expertise in the field as academics. And it's based on the general MLS program, but adapted specifically and tailored specifically for this field. And so in the first semester, you get the twin grounding in the legal side through Introduction to American Law, which is the course that I teach and created and developed specifically for this program. It is focused heavily on cybersecurity and data privacy context, But in that context, we give you a grounding in all of the major legal areas that you might encounter as a professional in this field, from torts to contracts to administrative law, constitutional law, and criminal law, as well as a little bit of international law as well. And then in Cybersecurity 1, we give you that grounding on the technical side. It's taught by a 20-plus-year industry veteran, Spence Witten, who is now with Motorola, which purchased the cybersecurity company that he is part of, called Lunarline. They have developed online training and education programs for a number of government agencies, including the Department of Defense and many others. So he has really deep experience and knowledge about both this field substantively and how to train professionals in it. Spence layered into this a dimension that we don't include for the JD students, which is some training in using actual tools that white hat hackers use. And so we really give you a nice taste of what it's like to be on both sides. And then in the second semester, we go a little deeper and complete that thorough grounding in the legal and the technical sides. The legal writing and research course, again, is based on a course we teach in the general MLS program, but adapted in this case, taught by a seasoned lawyer in this field who happens to be one of our graduates. And she uses materials from her own practice that you're likely to encounter as a cybersecurity professional. And the focus there is really taking that grounding you've gotten in Introduction to American Law and going a little bit deeper, working with the kinds of legal materials that you would as a professional, and that lawyers use as well, so you can understand how to speak and communicate in the language of the law and interact with the legal side. And then in Cybersecurity 2, we go back through the same topics covered in Cybersecurity 1, but here in an applied context. This is a course developed by an expert in the field who used to be part of the security team for nuclear energy, and now is the Chief Information Security Officer at Kent State University here in Northeast Ohio. And he has you work in teams to develop the security controls for what's called a business associate within health law. And health law is one of the major, most heavily regulated industries in this area. So we use that as the core to teach you how to, more generally, work in a thick compliance area. And so that's a team-based applied course that goes back through the topics in Cybersecurity 1. And so then with that basis, we move you into some more advanced topics. HIPAA and privacy we use, again, as the cornerstone of a thick regulatory environment. And so that is a course that we teach to both JDs and in this program. Again, just changed slightly for the online asynchronous format. Privacy law and management in semester 4 gives you the general overview of how to comply with multiple privacy regimes. It's taught by the chief privacy officer of a Fortune 14 company, or sorry, it was developed by the chief privacy officer of a Fortune 14 company, Ingram Micro, and he worked with us to create the core course, which is taught by a seasoned privacy professional who's based in Europe. And then corporate compliance 1 and 2, that sequence goes more deeply into overall compliance topics, again, focused on the context of cybersecurity and data privacy, so you get a thorough understanding of what a compliance program looks like, enforcement actions and various other things. And then this last semester, the capstone semester, these are the 2 courses we initially thought we might bring online, and now we've had the good fortune, because we have a very thick curriculum, to actually offer some alternatives that we think will likely be online for the next several cohorts. The first is a cyber law course, which will replace cyber crime. This is taught by a former member of the Air Force intelligence program, who is a cybersecurity expert within the military for a number of years, and now is a professor at the United States Air Force Academy. We're very excited to have brought him on and to be able to leverage his expertise. And then the cybersecurity risk assessment and compliance course, we're likely to shift that to focus on regulatory investigations, and the preparation for that involves doing some risk assessment and compliance. And so that semester is still under development. And then as we build out other courses, we hope to have some electives that you could take in that 5th semester to vary the program depending on your interest and strengths.
Thank you, Brian. And we have a great question here. If you work in the cybersecurity field, can you test out or something similar for those classes that you may not need, like, for example, Cybersecurity 1 or Cybersecurity 2?
Yeah, so absolutely. We have had strong interest from both lawyers who we work with to figure out whether it makes sense for them to take either Introduction to American Law or Legal Writing, and whether we could waive one of those. And likewise, although so far all the students we've talked to have wanted to take as a refresher Cybersecurity 1, we have a number of security professionals, including a senior member of the Progressive Insurance Company security team. And we're absolutely happy to work with you and figure out if it makes sense to start with Cybersecurity 2, for example. And because the structure of this program is such that we have 3 cohorts a year, we offer each of these courses almost every semester. And so usually it's not a problem to, for example, start with Introduction to American Law and Cybersecurity 2. And then by the time you get to semester 5, it would be, we'll be able to offer some other alternatives, so you would round out the 30 credits that you need.
Exactly. So I did just want to mention that in order to obtain this degree, you do need to complete a total of 30 credits. So as Brian mentioned, that we're looking to adding more elective courses. Once you get to your 5th semester, there'll be plenty of courses for you to choose from if we do waive a course that you may not need if you're a lawyer and don't need Introduction to American Law or Legal Writing, or if you're a cybersecurity professional and feel that you can skip a course like Cybersecurity 1. So that's where I strongly encourage you to reach out to me individually to see what curriculum would make the most sense for you, because we can be very individual and personalize this program to make sure it fits exactly your needs. And so our next steps. So like I mentioned earlier, we do have a cohort starting this upcoming January, the week of January 11th. So if you're ready to get started, we strongly encourage you to apply. The application deadline for the January 11th cohort is December 14th. So you still have plenty of time to apply. The application process is pretty simple. You'll apply online via csulawonline.com. And all we need from you is an updated resume, a personal essay describing how you expect to use this degree, what your motivation is for this degree, your official transcripts from either undergraduate school or any other master's degree programs that you might have. And once you submit all those documents, I will present your file to the admissions committee, and we love to give you a decision as quickly as possible. So you do not need to wait until December 14th to apply. You can apply anytime now between now and then, and we will get you a decision quickly. And again, if you have any questions about your application or personal questions, please schedule time to meet with me, and we can go over this more in depth. Here is my contact information. Most of you should have it already, as I have spoken with most of you, or you at least received an email from me, but here it is as a reminder. And I know that Brian and John are also open to speaking with you at any time. Brian would be happy to go over the courses more in depth, and John can speak to you at a high level about the ClevelandMarshall College of Law and Cleveland State University. And actually, John, I do have a question for you that came in that asks about a Master of Legal Studies degree in general. This is a newer degree to some people. They're not as familiar with it. More people are familiar with maybe a Master's of Business Administration. So can you speak to why a Master of Legal Studies is a degree that will provide them a competitive advantage in the workforce?
That's a great question, Julie, and it's one that we hear from a lot of our prospective students. And I actually do think that it is good. It's informative to compare the MLS to an MBA because that's often kind of the default degree. You want a promotion, you want to advance in seniority. Master's degrees are the most common degrees that are offered by graduate schools. And so the MBA is kind of the default position. So the value of an MLS versus an MBA, I think, is a really important question. And where I think the MLS degree really offers some great value here is, number one, everyone knows the rigor of the law school experience. So particularly with online education, there's always the concern, will this degree be respected? Will employers view it as meaningful? There is no employer, there is no one who thinks that law school is easy or that degrees are simply printed. There's a real knowledge that there's a quality of education and a rigor there, given that the degree is being offered by ClevelandMarshall, by a law school. But more than that, life has become so much more regulated in every context. Cybersecurity is certainly one where regulation is becoming increasingly predominant in a marked way, but really understanding the legal aspects are becoming more important in every field. And that's why Masters of Legal Studies have become more and more popular. UCLA just announced that they're following our lead, in effect, and they're introducing their own MLS program. And I think University of Pennsylvania just announced they had their largest MLS class in history. And actually, this year was our largest Master of Legal Studies class in the history of Cleveland State. So we're really seeing an increased demand for this degree because, number one, employers understand the rigor that a law school provides and really value that rigor. And number two, understanding compliance as it applies to business or cybersecurity or any field has just become so much more valuable as more and more of our lives have become regulated.
Thank you so much, John. And Brian, I have a question here for you. This student asks, if they're not currently working in cybersecurity, is this program beneficial to people who are career changers or looking to get into this space?
Absolutely, Julie. So as I mentioned, we give you that background on both the legal and the technical side, and we go into the business aspects. And so it's designed both for folks who have some experience in this field, and of course those with significant technical or legal experience, as we talked about, we're able to work with you to advance the start. But for those who have no experience, it's designed to give you that background. And so the Cybersecurity 1 and 2 were built specifically for law students with the assumption that they likely would not have a technical background, and will give you that. It is challenging, but Spence and Bob work closely with you, and likewise on the legal side, I and Amanda work with you to deal with it. Is a complex material, and it is challenging, and we really do throw you into it and really try to get you up to speed quickly. But it's perfectly fine to transition into this from other fields. One thing to keep in mind, though, that's important is, unlike a technical training certificate that you could get through an organization like SANS or CompTIA or others, this is not designed to provide the really basic but thicker technical training that would allow you to become to become an entry-level IT or technical cybersecurity person. It's designed to give you that 360-degree view and skill set that will be beneficial and allow you to advance in your career regardless of where you start. But we're not a technical training program designed to sort of get you from, in a short period of time from a non-technical position directly into a technical position.
Great, thank you, Brian. And I believe those are all the questions that we have for today. So I just want to thank everyone for being here and for your interest in this program. I know I speak for Brian and John when I say that we truly would love for you to reach out to any of us individually so we can answer your personal questions and continue this conversation. Before we go, John, is there anything else you'd like to add to the students?
Well, I'd really just like to say welcome to Cleveland State University. It's been my home now for over a decade, and I know that Professor Ray has been here still longer. There's a reason why we keep coming back. It's a wonderful intellectual home, and this program in cybersecurity is just one example of the real interdisciplinary research that Cleveland State provides. So I want to congratulate you on not just considering a career in cybersecurity, but really looking to a major research university that's going to be supportive of you, as Julie says, as your law school, as your university for life.
Thank you, John. Brian, is there any last remarks you'd like to say?
I just want to say thank you for joining us. And as Julie mentioned, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are very willing to work with you and tailor the program to fit your needs and also to tell you more. One thing we like to do is really talk to students before they enroll to make sure that the program is going to meet their needs and that you're a good fit in terms of your background and credentials. And so please do reach out. And even if you don't reach out directly, if you apply, more often than not, we'll probably reach out to you to have that conversation because you know, we really do want to make sure that this is the program for you. You know, in most cases it is. And so we'll look forward to talking to some of you soon. Thank you.
Very well said. Well, again, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Bye-bye.